We heard through the grapevine, basically, when Howard, they said Howard was interested in working on Mermaid, we said fine, and they said, wait till you talk to him. He's got this great idea for making the crab a Rastafarian. We're like, what? Our crab is going to become a Jamaican? What's he gonna do? And then Howard explained it to us because he said, well, I see, you know, reggae and calypso music is really cool, and it feels like seaside music to me, and I think there's a way of making music feel more contemporary if we did that. And we said, but if he's a Jamaican, won't he be this laid back, yeah, whatever you want, man, I can do it for you. We said, no, look at Jeffrey Holder, who was the actor doing it, and most of you too young to remember these commercials, but there were 7-Up commercials back in the day, the Uncola Man, and it was like an island guy, and now had the actor Jeffrey Holder. Drink 7-Up, yes, and he was very grand and very big. And so Howard said, no, that's more what I mean. We said, so this was before we had written a script, so then we wrote Sebastian as this grand sort of Jeffrey Holder guy. So I would say the way Sebastian sort of came together, both in terms of the voice and that character thing that Howard brought, the songs and the animation. Duncan Marjoribanks did the animation. I'd say that was sort of a special part of Mermaid, as well as certainly Ariel. We were trying to do a heroine that was more active than Snow White or Cinderella, that went out, you know, was sort of could get mad and could take charge and could be a forceful person and would be different and more active than those other earlier heroines. That was a very deliberate attempt on our part. In fact, in one of the earlier versions of the script, actually, because we're queuing out the Anderson story, she was a bit shyer and more reserved, because in fairy tales she's kind of that way. And we were looking at the girl in Glass Menagerie, Laura, who was very shy, and that play that Tennessee Williams played, almost as kind of a model. And in the earliest treatment, she was a little bit like that, and people thought, no, she's too, she's a little bit passive. And in fact, we had a dolphin character in the earlier drafts of the script who was very rambunctious and take charge, whom we thought it was Robin Williams possibly doing the voice for, called Breaker. And so at one point when we were writing the script, they said, you've got too many characters, and your mermaid isn't active enough. So we, in effect, threw out the dolphin, and we fused the dolphin's personality with Ariel. So we made that kind of active dolphin, adventurous person. We sort of made Ariel kind of more that, and that really helped to make her more definite, more specific, and more engaging.
In the two-page treatment that I wrote, I didn't name any of the characters except the mermaid, and I named her Ariel. And so some people have asked, you know, where did that name come from? And I wasn't sure, and because I know there's a character named Ariel in The Tempest, and I read The Tempest, but I didn't think of that. And then just more recently, I saw the movie Footloose, which came out just a couple of years before Little Mermaid, and the daughter in Footloose is named Ariel, and her father is like a preacher, minister, and I think that subliminally, I wasn't conscious at the time, but I think that may have been a little bit, to me it just seemed like a good name for a mermaid. It just sort of popped in my head. But I think there might have been a Footloose connection. We both worked on Fox and the Hound, and we knew
he was a supervisor on Fox and the Hound. He'd been in the city 4 years before I was. So I was a regular Savannah, and he was a supervising animator. He did Big Mama, the Elves. Pearl Bailey did the voice. So he was the animator in charge of that.
I would say we sort of became more, we bonded a little bit on the film The Black Cauldron, which was a Disney film.
Which is a film we both got kicked off of together. So
we want to hear that. Yeah, tell us what happened there.
We got in trouble on that film. It was actually a film we were really excited about. It was based on a series of books by Lloyd Alexander called The Crichton Chronicles. And there were just, story-wise, we just had some different ideas than
we were working. I was a director on that film. They were trying to bring in a younger director at that point. There were some veteran directors so that they paired me with, but they didn't really see it the way I did or anything. And it was sort of a schism. Actually, at that time, Tim Burton, who I went to school at the CalArts, did some drawings on what the characters might look like, and I thought, oh, this is cool. But some of the older directors were like, ooh, too weird. And then they were proposing new films for us to do after Mermaid. There were 3 films they came to us with. They said, we'd like you to direct another movie for us. And one of them was about lions in Africa. And we said, who'd want to see that?
We said it was called the King of the Jungle.
King of the Jungle. And so we sort of turned that one down. And then they were considering a version of Swan Lake done as an animated musical. And we sort of didn't quite get that either. But the third one was Aladdin that Howard Ashman had actually pitched to them.
There aren't quite as many opportunities in terms of right now as far as like Disney feature animation, because John Lasseter pretty much, and this may change, kind of takes pitches from the sort of in-house directors. So it's more difficult, like sort of for an outside person to actually present an idea for an animated feature at Disney. Although on the other hand, there are many studios doing animated features a lot more than.
I think some of those people hear pitches and that sort of thing, but I think for anybody that's interested, it's really a sort of a tough road. But you got you'd almost have to kind of write a script and then find an agent who's willing to represent you. So you'd have to go through like the Writers Guild, because if you just send here, I'm going to send my idea to Disney, they won't read it because of legal reasons. They don't want to get sued later, so it has to come through an agent. But it's sort of a catch-22. You can't get an agent unless you've had something done. So it's like, how do I
think it's possible.
There
are agents. There are certain agents that will read sort of unsolicited kind of stuff.
But I would approach the Writers Guild if you're actually to write to the Writers Guild in Hollywood, talk to them and see if you can get a list of agents that are willing to represent new writers, and then send them a sample of what you've got, and then you go from there.